So we've talked a little bit on this channel about preservation with games and, keeping games alive, the digital only thing and, removing physical copies of games. I've tried to defend, keeping physical games, and I will continue to do so on this channel. I also think this channel is a good place to talk about this, where we do look back and make retrospective videos or essay videos or tier lists kind of on old games. And there was a study done a few days ago talking basically about the endangerment of video games. And the big tagline is 87% of classic video games are critically endangered. And the short of it, so you don't necessarily have to read the study and then we can kind of talk about it, is they looked at games that came out before 2010 and they said 13% of those are basically easy to access. They're widely available to buy still right now. Whereas 87%, you're not going to be able to do it. So you have the Mercaris of the world or eBays or your local retro gaming spot. Right now, when you go into those, you're just relying on, I guess, the local population, that they went into that store and they traded in their game and that, it's in that store and then you can buy it, kind of at a discount. You're hoping for that. And what it seems to be is, games that released before 2010, that's probably how you're going to have to do it. In fact, literally, based off this study, that is how you do it. They're not going to be on, say, those e-markets or like a Nintendo Switch Online or PlayStation Network or Xbox, right? They're not going to be on any of those, and it's for a variety of reasons. Now, again, we've talked about just getting rid of physical discs and everything going digital. That's even more scary, in my opinion, because you think about everything being physical back in the day, and even games, say, 2009. So you go back 1 year before the cutoff of this study, right? So 2009, and those games that were mainly just physical games, they are next to impossible to get legally. Now, what I actually find kind of interesting and I guess respectable to a sense is the study kind of talked about piracy, the idea that, hey, is it moral? Is it like a good, your good moral stature to play games through piracy and to do things like that? And the answer is, well, to be honest with you, in order to keep these games alive, some of them you have to. And again, I actually have to give great respect to that. Now, maybe for YouTube's sake, I can't say, go out and do these things, so I'm not going to. But there has always been that, again, kind of questionable debate of, you don't want to steal. I'm not a fan of stealing. And you could, again, say whatever you want, I guess, in the comments. But for some of these games, through an emulator or through whatever, you almost have to, because the games do not exist. Or they talk about kind of like the Library of Congress, right? If you're going to, I guess, at this point, preserve these games, it's probably actually going to have to be done digitally anyway. That was another thing the study said, where it's like, well, we can keep these games alive. And even going forward, you think right now, right, removing physical discs, to keep these games alive, say for preservation's sake, for another 20 years, how are you going to have to keep them alive? You're actually going to need it digitally. So a game that, say, Alan Wake 2, right? We've talked a lot about that. Alan Wake 2, if you want to think of that game 25 years from now, or play it or whatever, or just preserve it for an academic study or library or whatever, how are you going to do it? You literally have to do it digitally, because you can't do it physically, because the game's not going to come out physically. So I think it all kind of connects. It is scary. That is a very high number. Now, I imagine the number is skewed average-wise because, again, I gave the example of like 2009. 2009 was like Uncharted 2 and Prototype and, games like that. You think back, I imagine the study is because games in the mid to early 2000s, and then before then, those games are next to impossible, right? When you go back and you look at, like I said, those Game Boy, just a random Game Boy game, think of, right? Can you naturally just go on an online store for any of these companies and get that game even digitally? The answer is probably no. Can you just walk into your GameStop and they'll just have that, readily available? The answer is no, right? You got to go to, again, one of your retro game stores and hope somebody in the local area traded in their Lizzie McGuire 2 copy into that store, and then you'll be able to get it. That's the only way you're going to get it, right? And, obviously, I think that's probably going to help the average, I guess, make it worse, right? That's how you get to that 87%. Because I think a lot of games, probably like 2004 and earlier, a lot of handheld games, probably a lot of PSP games is going to hurt that. A lot of Game Boy and DS things are going to hurt that. When you think of late PS2, and then really the beginning years of Xbox 360 and the beginning years of PS3, I don't know if I'd say readily available in terms of, again, going into like a GameStop and just having them there, or even going on PlayStation Network or Xbox, but they are easier to get in general. There's generally more PS3 games, let's say, at least in my experience, at a retro game store. There's more PS3 games available than PS2. I guess I haven't counted them exactly to match, but the PS3 section does look much, much bigger. Same thing for Xbox. There's always more 360 than there is Xbox, just, the original Xbox. And there's normally a lot of repeats for the Xbox, a lot of Halo copies and things like that. So it's a sad future we're going into. We talk about it a lot on this channel. Anytime there's articles or talk on this stuff, I do want to put it on this channel. I think it makes the most sense to do it, and I'm having a lot of fun with it. So we can have this channel be a little preservation channel. Keep an eye on all the news that goes on with it. Let me know what you think in the comments. If you haven't subscribed, well, there you go. You know kind of what this channel is. We talk about this stuff. We do retrospectives. We do tier lists. We look back at old games. That's kind of what this specific channel podcast now is about. Thank you for watching, and I hope to see you all on the next one.